The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the cracked sidewalk into a river of regret. Samuel's boots splashed through puddles that mirrored the neon haze of the city, his heart pounding louder than the thunder. "You're not my son anymore," the old man's voice echoed in his skull, fresh as the slap that followed, delivered not by a hand, but by the slam of a mahogany door sealing away the only family he had left. Samuel had always known hunger like an old friend, the kind that gnaws at your insides until it carves out hollows no amount of food can fill. Born in the Rust Belt corpse of Detroit, where factories coughed their last breaths and dreams rusted alongside the steel, he grew up in a shotgun shack on the wrong side of I-75. His mother, Lila, was a ghost of a woman, faded jeans and a smile that cracked like cheap porcelain, working double shifts at the diner to keep the lights flickering. But it was the leftovers that defined him. Half-eaten turkey clubs wrapped in wax paper, cold fries scavenged from busboys' trays, the bruised apples from the market's discard bin. "Waste not, want not," Lila would say, her voice a whisper against the howl of winter winds rattling the thin walls. His father, Harlan, was the shadow that never quite faded. A broad-shouldered mechanic with grease-blackened hands and eyes like storm clouds, Harlan had bolted when Samuel was 6, vanishing into the night with a duffel bag and a bottle of Jack Daniels. No note, no goodbye, just the echo of his pickup truck's tires on gravel and Lila's muffled sobs from the kitchen. Samuel pieced together the man from Polaroids, Harlan grinning at a Tigers game, arms slung around Lila's shoulders, Harlan teaching him to throw a curveball in the empty lot behind the house, the ball sailing wild into the weeds. Those images were talismans, clutched under his pillow like prayers to a God who'd long since stopped listening. By 18, Samuel had clawed his way out of Detroit on a Greyhound bus, ticket paid for with tip money from bussing tables at the same diner that had half-killed his mother. Heartache had claimed her 2 years prior, cancer, the cheap kind that Medicaid barely touched, and Samuel buried her next to the empty lot where they'd scattered dandelion seeds one spring. "Blow hard, Sammy," she'd said, her breath a rattle. "Make wishes that stick." He aimed for New York, the city of reinvention, where skyscrapers pierced the sky like middle fingers to the past. But the Big Apple bit back hard. He crashed on couches in Brooklyn lofts, hawked bootleg mixtapes on subway platforms, and slept in doorways when the rent checks bounced. Hunger followed him like a stray dog, but now it was for something more than scraps, for belonging, for a touch that didn't demand payment. It was in a dive bar off Bedford Avenue, amid the haze of cigarette smoke and the wail of a jukebox crooning Springsteen, that Samuel first saw Christian. The place was called the Rusty Nail, a relic with peeling wallpaper and bartenders who poured shots like confessions. Samuel nursed a flat beer, sketching half-finished portraits on a napkin, strangers' faces, always searching for his father's ghost in their lines. Christian slid onto the stool beside him, all golden hair and easy grace, like he'd stepped out of a Gap ad but with tattoos snaking up his forearms like secrets. "That's me, isn't it?" Christian nodded at the napkin, his voice warm as bourbon, laced with that Midwestern lilt that made Samuel's chest ache for home. The brooding artist type. "You nailed the jawline." Samuel flushed, crumpling the paper. "Just passing time. You look like someone who'd break a pencil staring too long." It was a lame deflection, but Christian laughed. A full, rolling sound that cut through the bar's din like sunlight through smog. He was 25, a photographer freelancing for indie mags, crashing with roommates in Williamsburg. "Grew up in Ohio farm country," he said, "where cornfields stretched like promises and Sundays meant church potlucks. But Christian had his own ghosts. A brother lost to the opioid wave. Parents who prayed the gay away but loved him in fits and starts. They send care packages, he admitted, swirling his whiskey. Granola bars and Bible verses. Like that fixes a bent soul. They talked until last call. Words tumbling like dominoes. Samuel's Detroit grit against Christian's soft-edged optimism. When the bartender flicked the lights, Christian's hand brushed Samuel's on the sticky bar top, a spark that lingered like static. "Walk me home," Christian asked, eyes green as new leaves. Samuel nodded, heart slamming against his ribs. The Brooklyn night wrapped around them, alive with distant sirens and the hum of fire escapes. At the stoop of a brownstone strung with Christmas lights year-round, Christian turned, close enough that Samuel could smell his cologne, cedar and rain. "This was nice," Christian murmured, and then he leaned in, lips soft and tentative against Samuel's. The kiss tasted like possibility, salty with the remnants of bar nuts and sweet with unspoken fears. Samuel pulled back first, breath ragged. "I don't do this. Not with strangers." Christian's smile was crooked, forgiving. "Then let's not be strangers. Dinner tomorrow? My treat, no leftovers." Samuel agreed, the word slipping out before doubt could claw it back. That night, alone in his sublet with the walls thin as tissue, he lay awake tracing the ceiling cracks, wondering if this was the wish Lila had taught him to blow for. The weeks blurred into a fever dream of stolen moments. Christian's apartment was a chaos of exposed brick and Polaroids pinned like constellations. Cityscapes at dawn, lovers tangled in sheets. A stray cat named Whiskey who eyed Samuel with suspicion. They cooked pasta on a hot plate, sauce splattering like laughter, wandered the high line at twilight, hands brushing until fingers laced, fucked in the shower with water scalding their skin, gasps echoing off tile like confessions. Christian was sunlight to Samuel's shadow, playful, with a camera always slung around his neck, capturing Samuel mid-laugh or lost in thought. "You're my muse," he'd tease, but his eyes held something deeper, a hunger that mirrored Samuel's own. Yet the past lurked, a tide pulling at the edges. Samuel's sketches filled drawers, Harlan's face, imagined older, etched with lines of what-ifs. One night, tangled in Christian's sheets, Samuel woke from a dream where his father returned, arms open, only to dissolve into smoke. Christian stirred, pulling him close. "Talk to me," he whispered, fingers tracing the scars on Samuel's knuckles, from bar fights, from punching walls when the grief hit too hard. Samuel hesitated, then spilled it all. The abandonment, the sandwiches, the whole Lila's death had punched through him. Christian listened without interruption, his silence a bomb. "He doesn't deserve you," he said finally, voice fierce. "But you deserve to face him. On your terms." The idea took root like a weed, stubborn and thorny. Harlan's trail had gone cold after Detroit, but Samuel scoured online forums, alumni pages from trade schools, even paid a sketchy PI app $50 for a lead. It led to Chicago, a suburb called Oak Park, where Harlan had remarried, spawned a new family, climbed to foreman at a Chevy plant. Wealthier now, with a split-level ranch and a boat in the garage. The hypocrisy burned. The man who'd left them to starve now grilling steaks in a backyard utopia. Samuel booked a bus ticket, stomach churning. Christian saw him off at Port Authority, pressing a Polaroid into his hand, them kissing under the Brooklyn Bridge, frozen in silver nitrate. "Come back to me," Christian said, and Samuel nodded, the promise heavy as a vow. The Greyhound ride was purgatory, miles unspooling like regrets. Chicago greeted him with lake wind sharp as memory, the L train rattling him toward suburbia. Oak Park was a postcard lie, manicured lawns, minivans gleaming like apologies. Harlan's address was a beige box with a basketball hoop and flower beds bursting with impatience. Samuel stood at the curb, pulse thundering, the Polaroid crumpled in his fist. A boy 10, maybe, with Harlan's storm-cloud eyes, tossed a ball against the garage. Samuel's half-brother. The sight twisted the knife. He knocked before cowardice could win. The door swung open, and there was Harlan, grayer, thicker around the middle, but unmistakable, the same calloused hands, the same wary squint. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice rough as sandpaper. Samuel's throat closed. "It's me, Dad." Samuel. The color drained from Harlan's face, a ghost staring at its own reflection. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, stepping back like Samuel was a curse. Inside, the house smelled of pot roast and pine sol. A woman's voice calling from the kitchen. "Who is it, Han?" Followed by the patter of small feet. Harlan's wife, Ellen, appeared, blonde, prind, with a smile that faltered at the stranger in her foyer. The boy peeked from behind her legs, curious. They sat in the living room, awkward as a funeral. Harlan poured coffee with shaking hands, avoiding Samuel's eyes. "How'd you find me?" he asked, voice clipped. "Doesn't matter." Samuel's words came out edged, honed by years of silence. "I came to tell you I'm gay. And that I don't need your ghost haunting me anymore." The room went still, the clock ticking like a bomb. Ellen's hand flew to her mouth. The boy fidgeted with a toy truck. Harlan's face darkened, not with shock, but something uglier, disgust, maybe, or the echo of his own failures. "Gay," he repeated, like the word was poison. "After all this, that's what you bring to my door?" Samuel laughed, bitter as bile. "What did you expect? A thank you for the leftovers? For leaving us to rot?" The words unleashed a flood. The evictions, Lila's breakdowns, the nights Samuel went to bed with his stomach screaming. Harlan shifted, mumbling about hard times, bad choices, a new life he'd built. "I sent money," he lied, and Samuel slapped the table, the coffee sloshing. "Liar. You sent nothing but pain." Ellen tried to intervene, her voice soft with forced calm, but Harlan waved her off. "This ain't the place for this," he growled. "Not in front of my family." "Your family?" Samuel's voice cracked. "What about mine?" The argument escalated, voices rising like storm swells. Harlan's face twisted, old prejudices bubbling up, Bible Belt echoes he'd never shaken. "It's a sin, boy. A choice. You think I raised you for that?" Samuel stood, chair scraping. "You didn't raise me at all." He stormed out, the door banging like thunder, rain starting to spit from the sky. Back in New York, Christian waited with open arms, but the wound festered. Samuel threw himself into their rhythm, shoots in Central Park, nights at the Rusty Nail, but the confrontation lingered, a bruise that darkened everything. Christian noticed. Of course, his eyes missed nothing. "Talk," he'd say, but Samuel deflected with kisses, with bodies pressed close to drown the noise. Then came the call, 2 weeks later. Harlan, voice thick with something like remorse. "Come back. We need to finish this." Samuel hung up, torn. Christian urged him, "Go. For you, not him." So he did, boarding another bus, the Polaroid his talisman. This time, the house felt smaller, the air thicker. Harlan met him on the porch. Ellen and the boy absent. "Sent to a neighbor's," he said. They walked to the backyard, the boat tarp flapping in the wind. "I was wrong," Harlan started, staring at the grass. "About leaving. About everything." He admitted the money lie, the years of guilt that drove him to drink, to build walls. But when Samuel circled back to his coming out, "I'm happy, Dad. With a man who sees me," Harlan's face shuddered. "I can't accept that. Not yet. But you're my blood." It was a half measure, a crack in the door. Samuel left with a fragile truce, Harlan's hand heavy on his shoulder, a touch that almost mended. Back in Brooklyn, he fell into Christian's arms, whispering the fragile hope. "It's a start," Christian said, but his eyes held worry, a shadow Samuel couldn't name. Summer baked New York into a skillet, the asphalt shimmering like a fever dream. Samuel and Christian escaped to the Hudson, renting a leaky rowboat from a grizzled vet who charged double for the oars. They paddled upstream, sweat beading on skin, laughter bubbling as Christian snapped photos. Samuel shirtless, muscles corded from hauling crates at a Soho gallery gig, the river light gilding him gold. "You're a goddamn painting," Christian said, reeling in the camera to kiss him instead. Salt lips slow. Parks turned to oases. Picnics on the Great Lawn with bodega subs that tasted like luxury, not survival. Christian introduced Samuel to his circle. Queer artists in lofts with ironic taxidermy. Drag queens slinging wisdom over mimosas at brunch. Samuel bloomed under it, his sketches evolving from haunted portraits to vibrant abstracts, colors bleeding like emotions finally freed. A gallery in Chelsea bit, a solo show, scraps and shadows, 10 pieces priced at hundreds each. Opening night, Christian in a thrift store suit, beaming as strangers murmured approval. "Told you," he whispered, hand warm on Samuel's lower back. They celebrated in a rooftop bar, city sprawled below like a conquered kingdom, champagne fizzing on their tongues. But joy is a jealous lover, and it summoned storms. Harlan's truce emails arrived sporadically, stiff updates on the boy, Jake, who was taking to baseball like you did. Samuel replied in fits, testing the waters, sharing snippets of his life, the show, the man who made mornings bearable. Harlan's responses warmed fractionally, no mention of Christian, but no recoil either. "Proud of you, son," one read, and Samuel framed it mentally, cornerstone. Then betrayal slithered in, subtle as fog. Christian's phone buzzed late one night, screen glowing in the dark. Samuel stirred, glimpsing the name, Alex. An ex, from Ohio days, blonde, brooding, the one who'd shattered Christian first. Old friend, Christian dismissed, silencing it. But the calls persisted, whispers in the bathroom, deleted texts Samuel pretended not to notice. Paranoia was a familiar beast, born of abandonment. Samuel shoved it down, focusing on the love that anchored him. The gallery show sold out, a check for $3,000 burning a hole in his pocket. Samuel splurged. A ring, simple silver with a knot pattern, bought from a street vendor who swore it warded off bad juju. He planned the ask for their 6-month mark, a weekend in the Catskills, cabin with a porch swing and no signal. Christian deserved forever, Samuel would fight for it. But fate, that cruel curator, had other exhibits. Harlan called midweek, voice cracking. Jake's sick. Leukemia. Doctors say. It's bad. The words hollowed Samuel out. He flew to Chicago, his first plane ride, turbulence mirroring his gut, landing in O'Hare with legs like jelly. The hospital was a sterile maze, beeps and bleach assaulting his senses. Jake lay small in the bed, IVs snaking like vines. Harlan slumped in a chair, Ellen red-eyed beside him. Samuel's arrival fractured the room's tension. Jake perked, eyes lighting. You're Sammy? Dad's story brother. Harlan had spun tales, sanitized versions where abandonment was adventure. Samuel sat, holding the boy's fragile hand, reading from a dog-eared Harry Potter until Jake dozed. Harlan pulled him aside in the hall, gratitude raw. Didn't deserve this. Any of it. They really talked for the first time. Harlan confessed the drinking, the shame of failing Lila, the remarriage as escape. Thought I could outrun it. But you're the best part one left behind. Samuel forgave, not fully, but enough to breathe. We're family, he said. All of us. Ellen hugged him goodbye, whispering thanks. Back in New York, he poured it into Christian, the sterile wards, the tentative bridge. Christian listened, but his hugs felt looser, eyes drifting to his phone. The Catskills trip arrived like salvation. The cabin nestled in pines, air crisp with leaf mold and possibility. They hiked trails slick with autumn rain, Christian's camera clicking memories, Samuel skipping stones across a creek, laughter echoing. Evenings by the fire, wine warming their veins, bodies mapping each other anew, slow, reverent, Christian's mouth tracing the map of Samuel's scars. I love you, Samuel said on the second night, the words a leap. Christian's eyes softened. God, Sammy. I love you too, he proposed at dawn, ring glinting in the mist-shrouded light. Christian's face lit, tears pricking. Yes, 1,000 times. They made love on the porch, world fading to the rhythm of their breaths, the future a shared horizon. Return brought reality's bite. Christian's shoots ramped up, a gig in LA, then Miami, absences stretching from days to weeks. It's just work, he'd say, but the distance chilled. Samuel buried in his art, prepping a follow-up show, but loneliness crept in. Harlan's emails a lifeline. Jake's chemo updates, good days, bad, remissions flickering like hope. Then the unraveling. Samuel came home early from a shift, he scraping the lock, to find Christian on the couch. Alex beside him, hand on his thigh, lips inches apart. The air thickened, frozen in betrayal's tableau. Sammy, Christian gasped, springing up, but the damage bloomed instant, a wound reopening old fissures. It's not, Christian started, but Samuel's voice cut like glass. Don't. Just don't. He grabbed his jacket, storming into the night, rain sheeting down as thunder cracked overhead. The city blurred, subways a roar in his ears. He ended up at the Rusty Nail, drowning in whiskey that tasted like ash. Hours later, Christian found him, soaked and pleading. Alex needed closure. It was nothing. I swear. Samuel searched his face, seeing the lie in the averted eyes, the old pull, the fear of forever after his brother's death. You chose him once. What's stopping you now? Christian wept, promises tumbling, but trust was a fragile thing, shattered irreparably. They clung on. A zombie romance, meals in silence, sex like obligation. Samuel threw himself into Chicago visits. Jake's smile his anchor. The boy rallied, hair sprouting in soft tufts, calling Samuel Uncle Sammy, with a grin that pierced. Harlan softened further, even asking about Christian once. He treat you right? Samuel nodding through the lie. Winter descended, snow blanketing Brooklyn in hush. Christian's absences grew, a magazine spread in Paris sealing the fracture. Samuel packed his bag that night. Note simple, I can't be your maybe. He crashed with a gallery friend. Sketches turning dark, betrayals in charcoal, fathers and lovers blurring into one. Harlan sensed the shift during a call. Come home for Christmas. Jake wants you. Home. The word tugged. Samuel boarded the train, Amtrak slicing through blizzards, arriving to Oak Park dusted white. The house glowed with lights, turkey scent wafting. Jake tackled him at the door, chemo forgotten in the glee. Dinner was tentative grace. Ellen's pie, Harlan's toast skirting the edges. Later, by the tree, Harlan pulled him aside. Heard about the boyfriend. Sorry, son. Samuel shrugged, throat tight. Love's a gamble, but in the guest room, staring at snow-globed windows, Samuel cracked. Sobs racked him, grief for the boy he'd been, the man he'd tried to become. Harlan knocked, entered hesitant. They sat on the bed, father and son, the silence finally comfortable. I was scared, Harlan admitted, of you being different. But Jake asked if you had a boyfriend like the ones on TV. Said it'd be cool. Samuel laughed through tears. Kids. Harlan's hand found his shoulder. Steady. You're enough. Just you. It wasn't absolution, but it was close, a mending stitch in the ragged seam. New Year's brought resolution. Back in New York, Samuel confronted Christian over coffee gone cold. I need space. To heal. Christian nodded, eyes hollow. I fucked up. But if you wait. Samuel shook his head. I can't wait anymore. Spring thawed the city, cherry blossoms rioting pink. Samuel's second show, bridges burned, drew crowds, sales funding a studio in Bushwick. He dated casually, a barista with dimples, a writer with ink-stained fingers. But none stuck, echoes of Christian's laugh haunting. Harlan visited once, awkward in the urban sprawl, Jake in tow. They strolled Coney Island, cotton candy sticking to chins, Harlan's arm around Samuel's shoulders, a photo Christian would have captured. Betrayal scar faded to silver, teaching resilience. Samuel wrote Lila a letter, burned it in the Hudson. I blew hard, Mom. And it stuck. Yet the heart, that stubborn organ, yearned. One rainy evening, sketching in the park, a figure approached, Christian, drenched, camera slung low. I sold everything. Moved to LA for the ex? No. For me. To figure out why I run. His voice trembled. I love you, Sammy. Still. Samuel's pencil stilled, rain blurring the lines. Forgiveness or farewell. The choice hung, electric. The rain didn't let up, turning Washington Square into a watercolor smear. Pigeons scattering, artists huddling under tarps. Samuel capped his pencil, the sketch of Christian half-formed. Eyes hopeful, jaw set like a man who'd walked through fire. L.A., Samuel echoed, voice lost in the downpour. That's a long way to come for a maybe. Christian stepped closer, water beating on his lashes like unshed tears. It's not a maybe. I was scared after my brother, after watching love chew him up. Thought if I held on too tight, it'd vanish. He reached for Samuel's hand, fingers cold but sure. But losing you? That's the real vanishing act. Samuel pulled away, not cruel, but necessary, the wound still tender. You vanished first. With every text, every late night, they stood there, soaked to the bone, the arch looming like a judgment. A busker strummed Hallelujah on a battered guitar, Cohen's ache weaving through the drops. Samuel's chest tightened. Memory was a thief, stealing breath. Go home, Chris. Dry off. Think on it. Christian lingered, then nodded, defeat in the slump of shoulders. I'm in the city a week. Hotel on Bleecker. If you want to talk. He turned, silhouette fading into the gray, leaving Samuel with a sketch and a storm inside. That night, alone in the studio, canvases leaning like sentinels, Samuel uncorked a bottle of cheap Merlot, the kind that stained lips purple. He pored over old Polaroids, them at Coney, wind-whipped and grinning. Christian asleep on his chest, freckles like stars. Betrayal's sting had dulled to a throb, but trust, that was scaffolding, rebuilt plank by plank. He texted Harlan, rough day. Miss Mom's advice. Reply came swift. She'd say follow your gut, not your ghost. Call if you need. Morning brought clarity, sharp as espresso. Samuel met Christian at a diner on McDougal, Formica counters, waitresses with beehives and sass. Over eggs that ran yellow, they dissected the wreckage. Christian owned it, the pull of Alex as nostalgia, not passion, the fear of permanence after loss. I ran because staying hurt more, he admitted, fork stabbing potatoes. Samuel listened, walls cracking. I ran too, once. From Dad. From me. They parted with a hug, brief, charged, promise of coffee tomorrow. The week unfolded like a tentative reel. Walks in the village, dodging tourists. Gallery crawls where Christians I found beauty in Samuel's shadows. Laughter crept back. Sly as dawn, inside jokes about Whiskey the cat, now rehomed to a roommate. But intimacy loomed, a line uncrossed. On the last night, rooftop bar with skyline teeth bared, Christian leaned in. Stay with me. In LA. Or let me stay here. Samuel's heart stuttered. I need time. Real time. Christian left at dawn, cab idling like regret. Samuel watched from the window, the Polaroid in his pocket await. Spring deepened, Brooklyn greening. Jake's updates glowed. Remission holding, school starting strong. Harlan's visits became routine, barbecue in the yard, Jake dominating Monopoly with ruthless glee. You're soft, Uncle Sammy. The boy teased, and Samuel ruffled his hair, the normalcy a gift. Summer hummed in, sticky and electric. Samuel's art surged, commissions from queer mags, a mural for a pride float. He volunteered at a youth center in the Bronx, teaching sketches to kids from broken homes, their eyes wide with stories unspoken. One boy, 14 and fierce, came out mid-session, I'm gay. Mom says it's a phase. Samuel shared his own scars, the leftovers, the father reclaimed. Phases pass. You endure. Word spread. A local paper profiled him, from scraps to canvas, thrusting Samuel into spotlights he'd dodged. Christian texted clippings. Proud. Miss your chaos. Samuel replied with photos. Mural progress. Jake's latest drawing. The pull strengthened. The tide. Fall crisped the air. Leaves carpeting streets like confetti. Harlan called. Voice edged. Jake's scans are clear. Full remission. Celebration brewed. Thanksgiving in Oak Park. All of them. Samuel invited Christian. Impulsive text. Family thing. If you're free. Reply flying in. Wouldn't miss. The house swelled with kin. Ellen's kin from Milwaukee. Cousins rowdy over football. Christian arrived windswept from O'Hare, hugging Samuel fierce in the foyer. Harlan eyed him appraising, handshake firm. Heard a lot. Dinner was chaos. Turkey carved crooked. Jake's prayers tumbling earnest. Later, by the fire pit, stars pricking the ink sky, Harlan pulled Christian aside. Samuel watched from the porch, tense. Words exchanged low. Harlan clapping his shoulder. Approval, hard won. That night, guest room shared. They made love slow, rediscovering contours. Christian's whispers. I'm here. For good. Sealed it. Morning brought pancakes. Jake demanding. So, you two like. Married now. Laughter rippled. Harlan grunting amusement. But drama shadows romance. Unbidden. Back in New York. Christian's LA ties tugged. A dream job offer. Editor at a glossy mag. 6 months, he said. Over takeout pad thai. Then I'm yours full-time. Samuel nodded. But doubt wormed. Distance again. The old fracture. Promise. Christian kissed his temple. Swear on whiskey. The separation tested. Calls crackling with static, literal and not. Samuel threw into work. The youth center his haven. One evening, a new kid arrived. Marco, 16, bruised from a father's rage after a stolen kiss. He called me abomination, Marco spat, fists clenched. Samuel saw his younger self. He shared Harlan's arc, the abandonment, the reclamation. Fathers break us. But we rebuild. Marco stayed after, sketching fury onto paper. Progress. Fragile. Then crisis. Harlan's plant laid off half the line. Harlan among them. Pride stung. He drank, old habits flickering. Samuel flew out, finding him in the garage, tools scattered like regrets. Can't fix this, Harlan muttered, bottle in hand. Samuel sat beside, steady. You fixed us. That's enough. They talked dawn through, Harlan vowing sobriety, AA meetings, job hunts. Jake clung tighter, fear in his eyes. Christian FaceTime support. You're tougher than any layoff. The family knit closer. Threads pulled taut. Winter bit. Snow muffling the city. Christian's stint ended early. LA's shine faded. New York calling. He returned Valentine's. Bouquet of daisies and a lease on a Bushwick walk-up. Our place, he grinned. Keys jangling. Samuel pulled him inside. Love fierce as the cold outside. Spring bloomed betrayal's antithesis. Trust. Watered daily. They adopted a mutt from the shelter. Ragged fur. Tail like a metronome. Named Scraps. Irony not lost. Pride marched. Rainbow rivers through Manhattan. Samuel and Christian hand in hand. Marco waving from the float. Yet climax brewed. Inevitable. Harlan's health faltered. Stress-triggered heart scare. Stents and warnings. Hospital vigil. Beeps. Bad coffee. Jake's hand in Samuel's. "Don't leave us, Dad," the boy whispered. Harlan rallied. Weak grins. From the bed. Eyes on Samuel and Christian, entwined in the chair. "You too. You're right. For each other." Acceptance. Full-throated. Discharge brought reckoning. Harlan quit the bottle cold. Found work at a union shop. Family barbecue sealed it. Toasts to second chances. Jake's cake smeared with frosting. Samuel caught Harlan's eye across the yard. Nod shared. Bond forged in fire. Back home, Samuel sketched the scene. Fathers and sons. Lovers under oaks. Christian framed it. Hung above their bed. "Our story," he said. Samuel smiled. "Oh. But life scripts twists." Summer sweltered. News dropping like thunder. Christian's ex, Alex, in town, suicidal spiral. Reaching out. "Just coffee," Christian promised. Samuel nodded. Trusts leap. Hours stretched. Worry gnawed. Dusk brought Christian home. Face ashen. He tried. I called 911. Collapse followed. Christian crumbling. Samuel holding through the sobs. "I couldn't save him. Like my brother." Ghosts converged. Old and new. They weathered. Therapy sessions in a village office, words unpacking baggage. Samuel shared his abandonment anew. Layers peeled. "We choose who stays," the counselor said. They did vows renewed casual over diner fries. Through scraps and storms, fall harvested peace. Jake thrived. Baseball star in Little League. Harlan visited. Boat trip on Lake Michigan, waves rocking, stories flowing. "Love you, son," he said. Simple. Samuel echoed. Free. One rainy night, mirroring their reunion, Samuel proposed proper, knee in the alley. Ring from that vendor. Graded. Christian yes-ed through tears. Kiss ceiling. Wedding small, Brooklyn loft. Queer choir belting Motown. Harlan walking Samuel down the aisle. Eyes wet. Vows. From leftovers to forever. The dance floor spun. Laughter loud. Samuel caught Christian's gaze. Love. Unbetrayed. Human. Flawed. Enough. The wedding afterglow lingered like champagne haze. But marriage was no fairy tale epilogue. It was the gritty sequel. Chapters of compromise and quiet wars. Samuel and Christian settled into the Bushwick walk-up. Walls echoing with scraps, nails on hardwood, and the clatter of Christian's darkroom trays. Mornings blurred. Samuel to the youth center. Christian chasing freelance shoots, editorials for The New Yorker. Portraits of activists with fire in their veins. Evenings wove them close. Pasta boils. Netflix marathons. Bodies curling instinctive under threadbare quilts. Harlan's presence anchored the periphery. Quarterly visits to Oak Park became ritual. Amtrak's sway a meditation. Jake's hugs tackling like linebackers. The boy, now 12, grilled Samuel on city life, subways, street art, the drag brunches that left him giggling. Harlan mellowed into grandfatherly gruff, sending smoked brisket via mail, griping about kids these days while sneaking Jake extra allowance. Ellen baked pies laced with love, her acceptance a soft revolution. "Family's what you make," she'd say, patting Samuel's hand. Yet undercurrents stirred. Christian's career crested. A book deal for Queer Lenses. Intimate shots from their early days. Samuel's face blurred for privacy but soul bared. Launch party at a Soho gallery. champagne flutes clinking, critics murmuring praise. Samuel beamed, but envy flickered, his own art plateaued, commissions sporadic, the center's budget cuts slashing hours. "You're brilliant," Christian soothed, but words rang hollow against unpaid bills. Betrayal's specter, thought banished, shape shifted. A shoot in Berlin 2 weeks, then extended to a month. Networking, Christian explained, packing with apologies. Samuel nodded, but solitude amplified doubts. The empty bed, scraps wine at dawn. He poured into Marco, now a mentee star, portfolio blooming, college apps for RISD. "You saved me, man," Marco said one session, voice thick. Samuel waved it off. "Nah. You saved yourself." Harlan sensed the strain during a call. "Everything good with the hubby?" Samuel hesitated, first crack. "Just adjusting." Harlan's pause heavy. "Marriage is work, son. Like fixing an engine, grease everywhere, but it runs smoother after." Advice stuck. Samuel texted Christian daily, bridging oceans with memes and missives. Return brought reunion fever, airport dash, kiss devouring jet lag. But Berlin's glow clung, tales of U-Bahn raves, collaborators with accents like music. Jealousy, unbidden, coiled. "Missed you," Christian murmured, hands roaming. Samuel matched, but post-coital silence hummed tense. Summer festivals pulsed, governor's ball, sweat-slick crowds moshing to indie anthems. They danced, lost in bass, but Samuel caught Christian's gaze drifting to a lithe photographer. Easy flirt. Paranoia or pattern? He shoved it down, focusing on Jake's all-star game, Oak Park fields green as hope, Harlan cheering horse. Post-win ice cream. Jake confided, "Dad says you're his hero." "For forgiving." Samuel ruffled hair. "Nah. We're all heroes here." Fall's chill ushered conflict's gale. Christian's book tour. Coasts crisscrossed. Signings in indie shops from Seattle to Savannah. Samuel tagged for the East Coast leg, but Midwest dates solo. Loneliness echoed. He crashed at the center, sleeping on cots with runaways. One night, a kid, 15, fresh from conversion camp horrors, curled against him during a storm. "They said I'd burn," the boy whispered. Samuel held firm. "You shine. They don't get to dim that." Tour's end crashed like waves. Christian home, exhausted, distant. "It's a lot," he admitted over cold pizza. Samuel probed. "Us," Christian sighed. "All of it. The spotlight. It pulls." Vulnerability cracked the dam. Christian's fear of fading, of Samuel outshining or eclipsing. "You're my anchor," Samuel said. "Don't drift." Therapy resumed. Joint sessions unpacking the drift. Revelations tumbled. Christian's abandonment issues mirroring Samuel's. Brothers lost to different demons. "We choose tether," the therapist urged. They did date nights enforced. Art swaps. Samuel's sketch for Christian's print. Winter solstice brought Harlan's curveball. Prostate cancer. Early stage. Treatable. Beat Jake's. He joked over chemo calls, but fear-laced. Samuel shuttled, holding basins during nausea waves, Jake's hand in his. Christian joined virtually, then flew, family huddle in the hospital lounge, Ellen's cookies crumbling under stress. Harlan's remission came spring, bald-headed and grinning. "Tougher than nails," he declared. Renewal rippled. Samuel's mural commission. A pride wall in Harlem. Queer icons in vibrant arcs. Harlan posing as ally dad. Jake as future self. Unveiling drew crowds. Marco emceeing with Mike Swagger. Christian captured it. Lens loving. But climax loomed. Betrayal's final guise. Christian's agent dangled a dream. Staff photographer at a Cali mag. Relocation bait. Temporary, he framed. But Samuel saw the hook. LA's allure. The escape hatch. Argument erupted. Kitchen knives flashing metaphors. You run every time it gets real, Samuel yelled. Voice raw. Christian fired back. And you cling to ghosts, your dad. The past. Holding us hostage. Words landed like shrapnel. Silence after was arctic. Christian slept on the couch. Samuel in the studio. Brushes slashing fury. Dawn brought regret. Apologies whispered, but fracture deepened. I need space, Christian said, packing a bag for a thinking week at a friend's. Solitude swallowed Samuel. He walked the bridge at dawn, Manhattan's spine underfoot, wind whipping doubts. Called Harlan. Fucked up. Again. Father's wisdom steady. Love's not perfect. It's persistent. Fight for it, or let go clean. Samuel chose fight. Text to Christian. Come home. Let's build, not burn. Return was tentative. Couch talks evolving to bed reconciliations. Bodies bridging words. Christian declined the job. Here. With you. Trust rebuilt. Brick by brick. Summer's heatwave tested. Jake's birthday bash. Water balloon wars. Harlan grilling with chemo scars badges. Christian gifted a camera. The boy beamed. Evening bonfire. Stories circled. Samuel's leftovers lore. Christian's farm fables. Harlan raised a Esmore. To found families. Blood or chosen. Fall harvested maturity. Samuel's solo exhibit. Tethers. Portraits of bonds. Harlan and Jake Central. Sold out. Critics hailing humanity's raw weave. Christian's book sequel pitched. Their story. Anonymized but true. Winter wedding anniversary. Vow renewal micro. Rooftop. Snow flurrying. Scraps in a bow tie. Rings exchanged anew. Kisses sealing. Through betrayals and beyond, Christian murmured. But drama's not done. It's life. Spring unearthed Harlan's secret. A daughter, from pre-Lila days, surfacing with letters yellowed. Your half-sister, he confessed. Shame bowed. Samuel met her, 40, artist in Philly, eyes like storm clouds. Awkward coffee bloomed to kin. Shared sketches. Tears for lost years. Inclusion expanded. Family reunions swelling. Jake dubbing her Aunt Rain. Betrayals layered, abandonments multiplied, but forgiveness scaled. Humanistic tide. One stormy eve. Echoing origins. Samuel and Christian faced their own gale. Christian's diagnosis whisper. Anxiety disorder. Tor triggered. Pills. Therapy. Samuel's hand steady. We're the storm now, Samuel said. And the shelter. Summer solstice. Beach trip. Toes in sand. Jake built castles. Harlan napped under umbrellas. Sisters bantered. Loves intertwined. Sunset painted them gold. A tableau of mended holes. Fall's equinox brought Marco's acceptance. Yale. Full ride. Graduation speech nod. Samuel taught me. From scraps. Symphonies. Tears flowed. Pride swelled. Winter's hush. Holiday lights twinkling. Harlan's toast. Raised on little. Loved with all. Echoes of sandwiches faded, replaced by feasts shared. Climax crested gentle. Christian's proposal evolution, a adoption query, for a kid like Marco once was. Samuel yes-ed, future blooming. Life's arc bent humanistic, not flawless, but forged. Betrayals alchemized to bonds, emotions etched deep. In America's vast quilt, they stitched their square, dramatic, romantic, enduring. The adoption papers arrived like fragile birds, fluttering onto the kitchen table amid coffee rings and Scrap's paw prints. Samuel traced the form's background checks, home studies, the bureaucratic ballet of becoming fathers. Christian paced, energy electric. Imagine it. Little feet thundering, questions at dawn. Samuel smiled, but nerves knotted, his own childhood a cautionary reel. What if we screw it up, like Dad did? Christian knelt, hands framing his face. We won't. Because we know the cost. Harlan's input grounded. Parenting's improv messy. But yours. He and Ellen offered backup. Grandparent dreams deferred no more. Agency visits began. Caseworkers in sensible shoes, probing questions over tea. Tell us about your love, one prompted. Christian's tales flowed. Brooklyn nights, rain-kissed reunions, Samuel adding layers of grit, the sandwiches that schooled resilience. Summer unfurled pregnant with weight. Agency match. A boy. 3. From foster churn. Eyes wide as saucers. Curls wild. Trial visits. Park picnics. Toy trains derailing into giggles. Dada? He ventured. Pudgy hand in Samuel's. Heart melt. Names brainstormed. Elias. After Lila's middle. Home study passed. Final court date loomed. But fate, ever the dramatist, scripted sabotage. Christian's past clawed back. Alex's sister, grieving the suicide, emailing vitriol. You killed him, chasing your fairy tale. Guilt tsunami. Christian spiraled, nights pacing, sleep evading. What if I'm broken for this? He confessed, voice splintered. Samuel held through tremors. Broken men's stronger. We're proof. Therapy intensified. Group sessions with other queer parents, war stories swapped. Solidarity forged. Harlan flew in for support, bunking on the couch, regaling Elias with mechanic fables. Engines got hearts too. Kiddo. Jake bonded instant. Big brother swagger. I'll teach you baseball. Uncle Sammy's hopeless. Falls verdict. Elias theirs. Courtroom hush. Judge's gavel benediction. Papers signed. Family official. Homecoming parade. Balloons bobbing. Neighbors cheering. First night. Elias in the crib. Thumb-sucking serene. Christian and Samuel collapsing in exhausted bliss. We did it, whisper shared. Tears salting kisses. Parenthood's rhythm asserted. Diapers at 3 a.m. Purees flung like abstract art. Samuel's center thrived. Elias tagging along in a backpack carrier. Tiny fists waving crayons. Marco, now Yale freshman, visited holidays. Lil bros got your fire. Sammy, pride swelled. Betrayals seemed antiquity. Winter's idol shattered subtle. Harlan's checkup. Spots on lungs. Not cancer, old smoking sins. Prognosis guarded, treatments taxing. Samuel shuttled again. Elias on hip. Christian juggling shoots. Oak Park vigils. Jake's homework by hospital beds. Ellen's stews sustaining. Harlan rallied, but frailty etched, hands trembling on tools. One blizzard night, Harlan called Samuel aside. "If I go, tell Jake I stayed this time." Voice rasp, Samuel throat closed. "You're staying. For him. For us." Harlan gripped his arm, eyes fierce. "You made me better, son. Gay or not, proud." Spring's thaw mirrored hope. Harlan scans clearish. Maintenance mode. Family road trip. Finger Lakes cabin. Canoes slicing blue. Elias splashed glee. Jake skipstoned philosophies. Evenings firelit. Stories layered, abandonments owned. Redemptions claimed. Christians snapped the lot. Our legacy. Summer's heat peaked with crisis redux. Agency follow-up. Anonymous tip. Christians' instability. From old emails leaked. Home visit turned inquisition. Any risks? Christians' anxiety aired. Raw. Samuel defended. We've faced worse. Together. Caseworker relented. But shadow lingered, fear of loss. Climax crested stormy. Elias fever spiked. Our dash at midnight, bronchiolitis. Pediatric ward beeps mocking. Holding his boy. For tethered. Samuel cracked. Not you too. Christian's hand anchored. Prayers unspoken. Dawn broke crisis free. Discharge brought humility. We're enough, Christian vowed. Flaws and all. Fall's harvest. Elias toddled first steps. Jake's home runs. Harlan's garage tinkering resumed. Samuel's book deal. Memoir. Sandwiches to symphonies. Scraps to fatherhood. Christian illustrated. Portraits soul deep. Winter solstice gala. Exhibit opening. Family en masse. Harlan in suit ill-fit. Beaming. Toasts rang. To mended roads. Elias clapped. Oblivious. Love's continuum. But humanism demands depth, tragedy whispers. Harlan's decline accelerated. Fall's glory fleeting. Hospice whispers. Family circled wagons. Oak Park house hushed. Machines humming dirges. Jake clung. Ellen baked through tears. Samuel read bedside. Lila's dandelion tail. Blow hard. That. Make it stick. Last breath came gentle. Harlan's hand in Samuel's. Eyes locking. Love. All of you. Gone. Funeral raw. Detroit plot beside Lila. Full circle. Eulogy Samuel's. He left once. Returned forever. Grief's tide pulled. But buoyed them. Elias' first word. Dada. Dual. Perfect. Christian's exhibit. Echoes. Harlan's central legacy lens. Spring bloomed resilient. Marco graduated. Speech echoing Samuel's influence. Jake summered in Brooklyn. Subway adventures with Elias. Family expanded. Half-sister Rain's wedding. Philly vows blending clans. Summer solstice. Beach redux. Harlan's urn scattered in waves. Toasts to storms weathered. Elias built sand tethers. Love's linked arms. Fall's equinox. Samuel's book launch. Bestseller quiet. Dedication. For Harlan. Leftovers to love. Winter's hush. Holiday lights. Elias laughter bells. Vows renewed fireside. Through all. Years spooled, Elias schoolbound. Jake college-bound. Betrayals. Distant myths. Emotions. Deep wells. Romance. Daily grace. Kisses stolen. Hands held. One rainy dusk. Alley echo. Samuel and Christian. Older. Lines etched love. From sandwiches. Samuel murmured. Christian grinned. To symphonies. Human arc. Dramatic falls. Romantic rises. Humanistic hold. America's heart, beating queer and kind. Epilogue whisper. Elias. 10. Sketching families whole. Like Grandpa's stories? Samuel nods. Better. Ours.